Hello everyone, welcome back to some League of Legends DFS Esports Breakdown for August the 6th. Not too great of a 4-gamer here, but we'll talk about it either way as we do. We can start with the recap from yesterday. That's not the right way to do that. So things did not go very well for us yesterday. We had the top esports 2-0, again minus 2,000 favorite, not a big deal. BLG had the 2-0 over OMG as the slight-ish underdog. Just kind of got this one completely wrong. There's really no other way to break it down. I think BLG are definitely a lot better than we give it credit for. I think OMG, is who we think they are. They are pretty volatile. They're definitely... I don't think there's any other word to describe it. They're just pretty volatile. They look great sometimes. They look terrible sometimes. There's really not too great of a measuring stick. I definitely think they looked not too bad. However, BLG just looked better. BLG, I think, are definitely a team we're going to have to start giving some credit towards. Icon is looking very resurged for some reason. I don't know. It's just kind of all across the board, and we got that one wrong. Over in the LCK, again, not the greatest time. With the picks did kind of go our way. I did say DRX I think would take it 2-1, and that is what happened. I think this series, overall the DRX Nongshim one was one we were pretty right on. I do think that series was pretty close. Nongshim did end up taking a game from them. Didn't quite pull out the underdog win, but again made it pretty close, and I think at a sizable underdog price that was a pretty fine result. Then when it came down to the Damwon Genji series, I was pretty surprised to see Damwon take a game. I was slightly wrong on this one. We did see Damwon make it somewhat of a close series. However, when it came down to it on game 3, I do think Genji really solidified it. I do think Genji was the much better team overall. I think they just played game 2 kind of weird. It is what it is. Kind of got the day wrong. It was going to happen sometime, but we move on either way. So should be pretty interesting here. Now that I remembered, let's actually look at the slate as a whole before we get started breaking down the games kind of individually. So we do have a gigantic favorite of RNG over IEG, minus 1,600 over in the LPL. Then, of course, we have a slight favorite in the LPL, Weibo over FPX, and slight-ish, minus 260, Weibo over FPX. Then in the LCK, we have a couple of close ones. Fredit Brion, minus 160 over Hanwha, and then Live Sandbox, minus 140 over KT. Some pretty intriguing LCK games, although the numbers may not back it up. KT LSB is actually looking to be pretty decent. It's actually at about 24 kills per game. Between them, IG and RNG are about 24, 25 as well. Then FPX Weibo is about 25. So all three of those games I think are looking pretty intriguing. And then Hanwha, Fredit Brion, of course, is down and dumps at about 21 combined kills per game. So, overall, I think all four of the games are actually pretty viable. We'll talk about reasons why later, but I guess actually I could just kind of spill the beans now. For the Hanwha Fredit Brion one, I do think that at least the sign that I'm looking at is going to be Fredit Brion. And for that, I think Fredit Brion's group up and team fight percentage is pretty high. If, I don't know a number of that. But I just think that overall Fredit Brion have a pretty high kill participation numbers as a group. So although the kill numbers that they get might not be the best, I think the participation they have in them kind of makes up for it in a way. So I'm not willing to X out Fredit Brion for that reason, but it'll be kind of pricing dependent and that kind of stuff. So we'll keep that in mind. But overall, all four of the games are pretty viable in my opinion. We'll just talk about which sides we're looking at, in picking them here now. So RNG, IG, not much to break down here. I do have some pause when it comes to just going crazy with RNG. I think RNG have officially kind of, as crazy as it sounds, like they didn't really lose much. I think they're 12-2 now. They were never really playing that poorly. They just never looked quite dominant. They're 11-2. They look good. They never really looked dominant, but I think now they are kind of looking dominant. I do think we are getting some improved improved play from Wei, Breathe, Xiaohu, Ming. They're all supporting Gala. Gala's actually kind of taken a step back, but it's definitely could be argued that the main reason for that is that everybody else is stepping up, so he doesn't really need to be doing as much. I do think RNG are looking like, for right now, the best team in the world. I think they've taken that mantle over from some other teams. I do think it is close. There's definitely arguments for some other teams, but in my opinion, I think RNG are number one right now, and IG are obviously in like the bottom three of the league, so it's definitely hard to argue anything other than, I think, an RNG 2-0 here, although the only concern is that in the past, earlier, I guess I mean like earlier this split, we saw RNG kind of play to their opponent's level a few times, and we know IG can have the aggressive nature of getting the like snowballing a game maybe randomly, but I just do not see it happening here. I just have to go with an RNG 2-0. Don't want to talk too much about it. FPX Weibo. So this one's pretty interesting. I've really been unable to get a grasp on FPX the last few games. They were a team that we faded early on, and it worked out well. Then we bought into when they beat JDG, and then we bought into them a little bit after, and it worked out well. But then as of late, it has not been working out in our favor. Well, we are really getting into the tail end of the season here, but they got the win over Ultra Prime. I do believe we were maybe on the upside of that. Then they lost to BLG. I think we were on the wrong side of that one. Then the TT loss, I think we were on the wrong side of that one as well. So it's been a while since we've been having a good read on this FPX team. I'm honestly, my first initial feeling here is that the odds seem a little crazy, but I kind of understand why. I think there's kind of like two schools of thought here, and I don't think either one of them would be particularly wrong. The number one thought here, I think, is Weibo typically play to their opponent's level. We've seen it multiple times here in the past, the not too distant past, of Weibo playing down and also playing up to their opponent's level. We could definitely see something similar happening here when it comes down to these two teams. The other kind of avenue here is that Weibo, they've been pulling out these games despite them going to game 3, I think, a lot more often than they should. I think they have actually been looking good. They obviously got stomped out by JDG, not too big of a worry there. But overall, they've actually been looking pretty good. Their losses are to EDG, not too bad. RNG, not too bad. Top Esports, not too bad. AL, pretty bad. But what is that? 4 out of their 5. What is their other loss? JDG, of course. So they've only really lost to all the other teams above them. We just talked about what? All of them except for... Wait, what did I do? I just got lost somehow. So they lost to JDG. Oh, they beat V5. That's where the kind of difference maker is. They beat V5 and then lost to EDG, RNG, JDG, Top Esports. So they've only lost to the teams above them and AL, who's next to them. So they've been fairly consistent at punching down and beating up these lower-ish end teams. I don't know. The price just seems crazy, in my opinion. As we could see, I don't know. I was just scrolling by and noticed we're still having everyone pick the blue side. Blue side is still doing pretty well in the win column, so something to keep in mind. FPX will have blue side, so we'll take a look at that quickly and see if there's anything there. So blue side, whoops, this is should be a little bit further out. Blue side, we have FPX 7-3, Weibo 4-1, and then over on red we have FPX 3-5, Weibo 6-5. So Weibo's still been going good on both sides, although we could definitely see noticeable splits from FPX. For sure, and yeah, I'm pretty intrigued for sure by this one. I just think this one's kind of close. I'm honestly a little unsure where to go with this one. Again, the odds just seem a little wide, but do I really want to take the shot there with FPX? It's like not really. So I don't know. This one's going to be a tentative, just kind of, I'll go with Weibo, but I don't love it. I don't feel that great with it. This is definitely one where you guys could keep an eye out for on Twitter or something. Keep an eye out. Maybe I'll have an update and somebody will make a good point and bring it to my attention, and I'll swap to maybe FPX here. But for now, I think Weibo are actually like a definitive, like a really, I think they are where they are. And I think I'm not that scared of an FPX team that I think is borderline been a little exposed as of late. We've definitely seen some poor performances from some of their players, specifically like talking about Summit and when he's off NAR. I think the Shy can really, you guys know I've not been a big fan of the Shy by any stretch of the imagination, but I'm definitely fine with going up against like having the Shy against Summit. I think that's a pretty big mismatch for the Shy. And overall, I think Clit has looked kind of shaky. Care has been not that great. Is like I've just been not too impressed with this FPX team. And although it doesn't, again, feel the best at this price tag at minus 260 for Weibo, I'm just going to have to slightly lean towards their side. I do think this one maybe goes 3. I think maybe FPX get the round 1 or the game 1 victory. I'm not sure because they are starting on blue side and they are going to blue side game 3. That is kind of the slight concern there is just the sides. Like obviously, FPX blue side 7-3, that's pretty decent. Red side 3-5. Like they're obviously a much better team on blue side. They are getting double blue side here. However, it's not like Weibo particular slouches on red side either because they're 6-5 respectively. So I think blue side most likely goes to, or I could definitely see Weibo getting their blue side victory. And do I think they steal one of those 2 red side games? Probably. And I think that's where it comes down to. Is it Weibo in 2, Weibo in 3? I'm just not too sure. And I don't know. It doesn't feel the best. So it will be a tentative Weibo selection here. But again, I wouldn't really fault anyone to looking at the FPX side. I think the odds are a little wide. And that leads us over to the LCK, where I actually have a little bit more of a solidified opinion on this one at least. And that is Fred at Brion versus Hanwha Life. So we've been riding Fred at Brion pretty well as of late. They've been picking up a few series here and there. They didn't quite get the job done their last time out, however. They were a pretty sizable underdog, I think, against KT. But they took a game off them. They beat Nongshim, took a game off KDF, took a game off T1. Like, they've only had a couple series, but they've looked pretty competitive in most of these. And I think they are going up against a very, very soft opponent here in Hanwha Life. I do think this price is actually pretty good, I think, for Fred at Brion, actually. I'm pretty comfortable going to this Fred at Brion team here. I don't know how expensive they are necessarily on DK. Looks like they're relatively cheap-ish. I think they're affordable. I think they're a fine spot here. Again, the numbers aren't great, especially, in the series as a whole. I don't expect too much action. We'll talk about the players and stuff when we get to the end, of course. But again, the difference maker here, in my opinion, is I just think Fred at Brion have looked kind of consistently good enough. And I think they show a particular level that I don't think Hanwha have. Hanwha have just seemed like such a lifeless team overall. I do think Fred at Brion have some skill. Obviously, they haven't particularly shown greatness. Obviously, they're a 2-13 team here. They have very similar map scores, 24 and 26% respectively. They're winning about a quarter of their games, both of them. But either way, I'm definitely fine with going with the Fred at Brion favorite side here. I personally just view it as I think Fred at Brion have been pretty clean as of late. Their game, although they're not picking up the wins, I just think that they're playing pretty decent against much higher end teams. And I think Hanwha Life has looked significantly worse than the rest of the league. And for that reason, I'm willing to go to this Fred at Brion side that I think should get the job done, maybe in 2. Just because I think they are relatively consistent in that aspect. I think Delight's been looking a lot better, especially on this engaged stuff like his Rakan. Then this takes us over to KT Live Sandbox. This is actually an extremely interesting series for me. So obviously KT has kind of gotten a little bit of steam from everyone as of late. Whether it's warranted, I'm not entirely sure. I do think, again, they are pretty solid here in the middling levels of the league, similar to LSB. I think the trajectory of these teams has been pretty interesting. So obviously LSB is a team we've been riding on the past couple of series ever since they took that loss to Nongshin. But again, one series, I'm not riding a team off for that. They took the series over Dom 1, but again, that was a little bit more of a Dom 1 fade than it was anything else. They took the series over Dom DRX. For the KT side, pretty similar story. They took the game off of T1 in a pretty close series. They took the win over Dom 1 as well. Then they dropped a game here to Frederick Brion. But again, I think that's a little bit more Frederick Brion being decent than anything else. Overall, I don't know where to go on this one. Honestly, I do think this is probably about as close to a pick'em as you could get. I think the big difference maker here is that I just think LSB has had a lot of promising play from a lot of different areas. I think when we look at every player on this team, I think they've done a lot better in their their pressure and aggressiveness is what really kind of sets the tone here. I think Dove has looked not the greatest, but I think he's kind of put in a bad role in a way where I don't expect a lot from him. I think Krako's been actually looking pretty good on things like the Wukong. I think Closer's been looking extravagant on a lot of his picks, like some of the Akali games. Ari, he's been looking pretty good. Prince has been asked to do a bunch. I would like to see a little bit more from Kyle. I do believe he's just kind of been put on like things like the Tom Kenshin stuff. Overall, I do think this is a pretty close 50-50 game. I do think it is one you could definitely invest in on DK. The numbers are actually pretty intriguing. LSB have a pretty crazy high kills per minute, so their pace is pretty high. KT's pace is a little bit slower. That's why their average game time is really high. That does kind of play into the total here. Is the KT's average game time definitely brings that number up for sure. So it's close. It's interesting. I could definitely think of a pretty solid case to go with the KT side. I would not blame anyone for looking at that side as well. I do think this team is, in a way, like kind of underrated. I just feel like when I look at the individual players from Live Sandbox, I've been seeing a lot more better proactive playmaking. And I think that's the difference maker here. Obviously, we know from the KT side, aiming and life have done incredibly well. Kind of in lane, and obviously we know the aiming show, all that stuff. People really love aiming. He has been playing incredibly well. I just think that the difference maker of the whole game is Live Sandbox's side. Obviously, I think the big difference here is between mid and jungle. I think Cuz and Arya have not been playing as well as Krako and Closer have, and I don't think it's particularly close either. I do favor Rascal over Dove, and I do favor aiming and life over Prince and Kyle, but I think that one could definitely go either way. I think this is going to be heavily dictated by the picks and bans as well. Like if aiming gets stuff, it depends on like what team gets the Zeri, that kind of thing. I think it will be close, but I definitely think you can make a pretty good case to look to the KT side. I think they are relatively cheap. Actually, they're not that cheap. I think people are probably going to take a good chunk of KT, especially when you're looking at aiming in life. Some of the numbers that they put up are pretty incredible, but I'm willing to go to the LSB side. Hopefully, they're kind of a little bit forgotten in the middle. They're a tad bit overpriced maybe, but I think I'm willing to look at that side for sure. I do think it makes sense, and I'm not afraid to go there for sure. So yeah, that kind of covers it. I do think I don't love taking the kind of no underdogs here. I definitely think there's going to be spots. I could definitely see an underdog coming through here for sure. Like obviously Hanwha and KT are very closely put in the odds market for sure. I definitely wouldn't blame anyone for going any other way here. I just cannot find a feel-good avenue when looking at any of these dogs. The biggest case in my opinion would be FPX Weibo. I do think Weibo, the fact that they kind of always go to 3 games, and sometimes they look somewhat problematic, and I don't know, it just doesn't feel great to look at the Weibo side here, especially at that price tag, and feel comfortable with it. I just have to look at them and kind of look at them through the lens of 4 out of their 5 defeats are 2 of the upper echelon teams. When we look on the FPX side, they've had some really questionable games as of late. I just think that's kind of the difference maker here. And I just especially think when I look at the Shy versus Summit, I think the Summit has been kind of a little bit shown to be somewhat fraudulent off of the NAR. I do think Weibo are going to be able to exploit that, get the Shy into good positions, and I'm not too afraid of that many other options on FPX. Really, I do think mid lane could be a little bit worrisome. I do favor Care over Angel, at least a little bit. You know, I do think Angel is a tad bit underrated as an individual player, but I think Care's been playing pretty well as well, so the concern is there in the mid lane. I just am not in love with the FPX team anymore. They seem so wildly inconsistent. You could definitely make a good case there, but I don't know. I'm just not personally there. So unfortunately, it is going to kind of be a huge favorites day for me. But you know, I'm not gonna put. You know, I don't want to try and force one in there or do anything like that. So we'll just have to kind of leave it there as it is. So Weibo, Fredit, Brion, Live Sandbox, and RNG, of course. So we'll look at their past little bit here. We should have pretty solid grouping, I think, overall. See, this is what I was kind of alluding to earlier with Fred or Beyond. We look at Lava, Hannah, Delight, Umpty. They're all almost like 70% and above. They're 4 out of the top 7 here, or 4 out of the top 8 here. When it comes to kill participation, we see something similar from RNG with Xiaohu, Ming, and Wei. Gala's up there at 66%. LSB is not too bad with Kyle, Crocker, Kyle, Croco, Closer, and Prince. They're all above 68% or so. I think Closer's particularly been playing much better. His kill share is going up as well. So I think there's plenty of options. I definitely think you could definitely look at some double mid options here. Obviously, Xiaohu is super expensive. He is 8K. He's the same price as Gala. But I think if you want to look at something like Closer and Lava or Angel, I don't know if you can necessarily afford that much. Maybe that's only if you have an LSB side. But I'm not afraid of any of these mid laners here. I don't think their numbers here, like Xiaohu is really up there. Lava's there as well. Closer's, you know, he's kind of on the lower end here of this range, but again, this is not that much lower than anyone else. Angel is on the higher end of the team now. Surprisingly, Angel has some of the highest numbers on all of Weibo. That is the concern. I do think when we look at top lane, Morgan and the Shy would be the options. 23% kill share, 28% kill share for the Shy. I do like the Shy here. I think this is a pretty good spot for him against Summit. Yeah. Are we missing a top laner here? Oh, Dove's up here at 61. Again, a number I'm fine with. His kill share is a little bit low, and you're kind of hoping for a pretty slow day if you're looking for Dove. I think Dove is much more of a hope you get the 10 assist bonus type of player. I think you could definitely see a little bit more from the Shy and Morgan, especially the Shy. His upside is pretty high. But overall, I think I'm willing to go to a lot of these spots. I don't love like the Weibo stuff here. They might be the team that I end up getting out of. Maybe I'll mix in some like the Shy one-offs. I definitely think that still interests me. I think that's a pretty good way to hopefully get a little bit unique. Maybe is like a double mid with the Shy one-off, maybe something like that. But overall, I do like the numbers that we see from Fred, Brion, RNG, and LSB here. I don't love these numbers from Weibo. And again, Weibo was a team I was pretty hesitant on either way. I could definitely see this Weibo FPX game going 3. And for that reason, I'm a little bit off them. Maybe maybe they're going to be the team that people go to, but I know RNG are going to be pretty heavily owned either way. So yeah, I think that will do it for me. Thank you guys for tuning in. I will see you guys all again tomorrow. I think there's 8-7. Let's see, LCK. Yep, we have one more day, and then I do believe we're going on the weekend break. So I will see you guys all back again tomorrow for another 4-game slate. And thank you guys for tuning in, and we'll see you guys then.